I, 28 female, made a joke with my husband, 29 male, and it's costing me my marriage with a man I truly love. How do I fix it? I created this account a few minutes ago because I need advice. A joke I made is spiraling out of control, and I'm losing the man I truly love over it. My husband and I have been married for 4 years, and I love him with everything I have. I can't see a life without him. Some of my girlfriends convinced me to try a prank they've done on their husbands or boyfriends, telling them you want to break up or a divorce. I thought it was cruel and never wanted to do it, especially to someone I love, but they kept pestering me because I was the only one out of the 5 of us who hadn't done it yet. They shared how their partners reacted afterward, and I stupidly gave in. So I did it last week, and my husband's reaction was nothing like I expected. I thought he would try to talk me out of it or suggest ways to make things work, like my friends' partners had done, but he didn't. We were having dinner and watching a movie when I told him, I'm not happy anymore, and I think we should get a divorce. He looked at me for a few seconds, and I swear, something broke in his eyes. He got up, went to our bedroom, and within 10 minutes, came out with a packed bag and walked out without saying a word. I tried to stop him, especially after seeing him with his bag packed, and I told him it was just a joke and that I didn't mean it, but he brushed me off and walked out. Since then, I've tried to reach him through messages, calls, emails, and video chats, but he isn't answering. I even talked to his friends, but none of them will tell me where he is. When they do respond, it's to say they don't want to get involved. I went to his workplace, but they refused to let me in. And his parents and siblings have refused to get involved too. His sister sent me one message, joke or not, you really messed up. I've sent countless messages explaining that it was just a joke, even including screenshots of my conversations with my friends as proof. But he's ignored all of it. My friends haven't been any help. They just tell me to give him time and that he'll get over it. Yesterday, everything came crashing down when I was served with actual divorce papers. It felt like someone punched me in the face, and I was and still am in so much pain. I tried desperately to reach him, but all I got back was a message saying he has nothing to say and that I should speak to his lawyer. How can I get the man I love back? I don't want to lose him. I know I made a stupid mistake, and now it's tearing my world apart. Edit, I've already had questions in my DMs about this. To clarify, we didn't have any issues that I was aware of. We were laughing and having fun together all day. There was no recent fight or distance between us. Everything felt perfect. Now for the top advice. The joke is basically telling your partner you want to break up or that you want a divorce. What the actual That is not a joke. You did something spectacularly stupid and are facing the consequences for it. It honestly looks like your female friends know how ridiculously gullible you are and knew exactly how this would blow up in your face. They did it with their partners and nothing like this happened to any of them. According to them, it actually made their partners more attentive and affectionate towards them. So it wasn't a joke. It was a manipulation tool. I can see that. Be honest, this was never a joke. You just wanted to use those words to control him. No, I would never want to control him. I can see why you would think this way, but I was really just joking. Are you really 28? Because this is the stupidest, cruelest, most childish prank I've ever heard of. It seems extremely unlikely that you haven't been able to tell him you were joking. Regardless, that's all you can do. And if he still wants to divorce you because you thought hurting him would be fun, well, fool around and find out. I did tell him it was a joke. I even sent a screenshot of my chat with my friends as proof that it was a joke and not me backtracking now. But he isn't responding. Then he probably doesn't want to be married to someone who would hurt him on purpose just to have a laugh. Why didn't you follow him right after he left to the room to pack his things? I didn't know he was packing. I don't know what I thought, but it wasn't that he was packing his things. Next story. Thinking about not attending my brother's wedding because of his fiancé's prank on my husband. I'm 25 female and my husband is 30 male. Recently, my brother 32 male and his fiancée 31 female came to visit us in our city. My partner and I are new homeowners, so this was their first time staying with us. For some context, my brother's fiancée is very into Halloween and considers herself a Disney adult. She has a childlike side and often gets absorbed in her interests. I mentioned this because I genuinely think what happened was her getting carried away, but she sees it as a personal attack. This disagreement led my husband to cut their visit short. In other words, they were asked to leave. Since meeting him, my brother's fiancée has repeatedly said that my husband has a dark vibe. She often compares him to characters in her books, saying it's a compliment, though I'm not so sure anymore. Her comments are based on his looks, his general vibe, and the fact that he has a hand tattoo. During this visit, she mentioned wanting to see someone like him get scared, as she couldn't picture him being startled or screaming. She set out to make scaring him her goal during her stay, but none of us, including my brother, knew about it. The incident that caused all the trouble happened when he tried to jump scare my husband in our dark garage. She hid in a full costume and mask, waiting to ambush him when he came home from a run. But instead of screaming, he instinctively pushed her away, not realizing who it was. She hit her head on the wall and was clearly shaken up. Thankfully, he realized right away from her reaction that it wasn't an intruder. He turned on the light, removed her mask, and helped her inside, apologizing, making her tea, and calling me. I was out with my brother. When we got home, I asked her if she was okay, and said that the prank was a bad idea. It could have seriously hurt her. She responded by crying, saying my husband used excessive force and must have known it was her just playing a harmless prank. Then my husband calmly asked, "Are you saying I intentionally assaulted you?" She hesitated, but then said yes, to which he replied, "Get out of my house." I tried to smooth things over, but my husband was firm that if she truly believed he'd hurt her on purpose, she wasn't welcome to stay. She chose to stand by her accusation, so I sided with my husband. Now my brother is angry, saying I should have done more to calm things down and convinced my husband to apologize and placate his fiancée while she recovered from the situation. He thinks this would have all blown over if I had helped my husband back down. I find this unfair, especially since my brother didn't say anything to his fiancée or try to reason with her during the discussion. My husband remained calm throughout, but he clearly felt insulted by her remarks, which I think is valid. Why should I have sided with my brother's fiancée over my husband, especially when I feel she crossed a line and then accusing him of wanting to hurt her? My brother says I was short-sighted and should consider their upcoming wedding. But I think he should be the one urging his fiancée to apologize to my husband. If she hadn't hidden in the dark garage in the hooded costume, none of this would have happened. There's no way he would have known in the moment that it was her, and I believe anyone would have a similar reaction. Frankly, she's lucky she was not hurt more than she was. There is a direct cause effect here, yet she's not accepting responsibility. I think her behavior falls into the play stupid games category. Your husband doesn't have anything to apologize for, and it's offensive for them to try to obfuscate her responsibility. Not a-hole. Exactly this. It's one thing to come out of a closet into a well-lighted room, and completely another to jump someone in a dark garage. She's lucky he didn't break her nose or her jaw. I live in Oklahoma. She's lucky she didn't get shot. Texas here. Getting shot is a real possibility. That's beyond stupid on her part. I can guarantee you that I will not be attacked again. Not funny. She seems inappropriately fixated on OP's husband. Why was she even pranking him to begin with? Do they normally have a jokey banter? This is just so bizarre, and I don't understand her thought process. What exactly did she expect would happen? He would push her up against a wall, pull off her mask, and take her right there? This isn't a dark romance novel. Jesus, that's her brother-in-law. I don't understand either. My husband has no banter with her. They don't have much of a rapport. All her impressions about him are just superficial ones she's made. She doesn't even know him. But she's the type of person who believes she is really good at reading people and convinces herself she's figured them out and what kind of person they are. She has tried guessing things about him in the past, and she gets them wrong because she is basing him off her assumptions. I am sure she does this with other people she meets too. Next story. My 24 female boyfriend 24 male wants to move in together, but after we went on a trip I don't want to. How do I tell him? We've been together for a year, but we've only spent 1 or 2 continuous nights together due to our busy schedules. My boyfriend wants me to move in with him ASAP, and I initially told him I would consider it in a few months. However, we recently went on a trip and I saw a side of him that really turned me off. My boyfriend has a habit of making hurtful jokes, especially about appearances. I feel bad saying this, but he's in no position to make comments on anyone's appearance. He's pretty overweight, although I've never mentioned it because I don't care. While I was getting ready for dinner, he started joking about my arms, calling them massive and comparing me to Popeye. This hit a nerve, as I am fit and muscular, and I already worry about looking masculine. I started to cry because I felt so insecure. Instead of comforting me, he walked out of the hotel room, slammed the door, and said, "When you're ready, I'll be downstairs." Later we talked and he told me he was mad that I was upset, saying I can't take a joke, and that he's sick of having to watch everything he says around me. In the end, he promised not to make negative comments about my appearance anymore. But just 2 hours later, while looking at photos, he said, "Wow, your makeup was actually messed up today." His behavior on a flight home was also disturbing. During a 5-hour flight, he ordered tons of food, left a mess everywhere, and expected me to dig through the overhead bin for his AirPods. When I said I didn't feel like waking up the guy next to me just to look for them, he rolled his eyes and turned away from me. The final straw was his reaction to the flight attendant. She was giving clear instructions to buckle seat belts and turn phones to airplane mode, but he ignored her, busy uploading selfies on Instagram. When I asked him to follow her instructions, he flipped out, saying, "Why do you have to tick me off all the time? You're not my mother. I'll do whatever I please." Embarrassed, I snapped back, "Well, stop acting like a child then." He replied, "No, you are the child. You don't know anything." At that point, I just closed my eyes and tried to sleep, holding back tears. About 10 minutes later, he tried to hold my hand and told me, "You know I love you. I'll always love you. My heart belongs to you." Throughout the trip, everything seemed to be about what he wanted. One day, I suggested we do our own thing, and he agreed. We were apart for just 8 hours, but he called me several times, asking what I was doing. When we met up again, he told me he missed me and worried about me. For me, it was the complete opposite. Without him, I felt peace. Despite all of this, he's always kissing and cuddling me, telling me he loves me. When I got home after the trip, he said he was so sad to go home without me and wishes we lived together. However, his behavior on this trip has completely turned me off from the idea of moving in with him. How do I tell him I don't want to move in right now? I know this will hurt him, but after seeing this side of him, I'm not sure living together is the right choice. Now for the top comments. You should be breaking up with him, not worried about how to tell him you don't want to live with him. Good thing she doesn't live with him. It will make breaking up with him so much easier. That's why he wants her to move in. He can't even mask his BS long enough to get his hooks in. He is that bad. Without him, I felt peace. You know what to do. He's affectionate, so you'll feel confused and give him the benefit of the doubt. And then he can keep being dreadful. Yep, this was the line for me. OP, bite the bullet and dump him. Do not move in with him. He is disrespectful and abusive. He wants everything on his terms. You know the relationship is over when you're happier if the other person is gone. OP, your life could be blissful. P gave you the ick. Going on holidays with a partner can either make or break the relationship. I think it's broken yours. If you move in with this guy, that will be your life. Disrespect and belittling you. He has shown you who he is. You know what his reaction will be already. He will get angry, storm off, gaslight, and love bomb you to try and get you to change your mind. I don't think you'll be able to just tell him, "I don't want to move in," without it ending the relationship. And to be honest, I don't see a future for you with this man-child. Thank you for your reply. Yes, that's how I would describe it. I got the ick majorly, haha. He has told me before, if we ever break up, I think I would get major depression and go back to his home country. Honestly, after these replies, I think I'll start planning my exit. Last story. Am I the a-hole for abandoning my husband after his surgery to go on vacation with my family? A month ago, my husband and I had a disagreement that's still causing a lot of issues with my family, so I'm hoping for some outside perspectives. I'm a 32-year-old woman, married to my husband, who is 34 for 5 years now. 3 years ago, I got pregnant with our first child, and we were both thrilled to become parents. The pregnancy, however, was really tough on me. I had extreme morning sickness and was constantly exhausted. Before my due date, I talked with my husband about wanting to stay at our home after giving birth. In my country, it's common for new mothers to go to their family's home for help with a baby, but I didn't want to. I have a complicated relationship with my father and wouldn't have felt comfortable around my brother in such a vulnerable state. While I love my family, it just didn't feel right. I felt it was my husband's responsibility as the baby's father to take care of both the baby and me, and he agreed. So, we prepared our house for the baby and set things up for guests. My mom agreed to come stay with us, and his mom also offered to help. But after I gave birth, my husband drove me to my family's house, saying he thought it would be better if I stayed near my mom and sister, as they could care for me better than he could. We stayed at my parents' house for a month, and during that time, he only visited us 3 times. I felt humiliated and ashamed. I had to deal with leaky breasts, stitches, and a crying baby while staying in my old bedroom, which I shared with my sister. My family tried to help, but being a private person, all I wanted was to go back to my home and have my husband by my side. I later found out he's gone on a trip with his friends to Dubai. Fast forward to a month ago, my husband fell ill for 2 days, and his pain worsened, so I drove him to the hospital. He needed an appendectomy and spent 2 days there. I stayed with him the whole time, but when he was discharged, I took him to his parents' house instead of ours, telling him his mother could care for him better than I could. Then, I took our child and went to join my family in another city, where they were spending the summer. When I told my family, they expressed disappointment, saying, "That's not how we raised you. You don't abandon your husband when he needs you most." My in-laws were furious, and my sister even suggested that I should have left the baby with him as well. After a week, I came back to our home and he returned 2 weeks after his surgery. Since then, he's been giving me the silent treatment and has been sleeping in the living room. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. What was he expecting? You gave him a taste of what he gave you, which was nothing. His behavior was worse because there were different plans. The opinions of other family members are irrelevant. Phew, that double standard is real. She matched energy. Was it petty? Yep. Did he deserve it? Yes. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Not the a-hole. This is the final update to the AITA post where OP find out his baby isn't his a month after his wife passed. Link to the first part in the description. Now for the final update. Baby's gone. The results came back 2 days ago. As expected, I'm still not the father. By the time the results came in, I'd already packed up most of the baby's things. My mom was staying with me, helping take care of the baby and keeping me sane through all of this. This morning, my late wife's parents, sister, and brother-in-law came to pick him up. The handover was smooth, except for a snarky comment from my wife's sister. She said I seemed too eager to let the baby go. I didn't respond. There was no point, but it stung. Despite that, my in-laws, her parents, were supportive throughout, and told me that going no contact would be best for everyone involved. I agreed. It's painful, but I think it's the right choice. I hugged them goodbye and they left. They're good people and I will miss them. Now, the house feels empty. My mom went back home today but will return tomorrow to stay for about a week until things settle. Honestly, I feel relieved. Call me what you want, but I'm finally breathing again. This whole ordeal has been exhausting, but knowing I can start fresh feels like a weight off my shoulders. As for my wife's belongings, I gave her jewelry to my in-laws. They didn't want anything else except for a few trinkets and pictures, so they told me I could sell or donate the rest. I haven't decided what to do with it yet, but I'll figure it out. I didn't respond to comments on my last post because the hate was overwhelming, and I was exhausted. My DMs were flooded with some of the vilest messages imaginable, just because I chose not to raise a child that isn't mine and was conceived through infidelity. To those who supported me, thank you. Your words helped me make decisions I wasn't confident about before. And to those who criticized me, I appreciate the perspective. Even if I didn't agree, it made me think. For now, I'm taking a break from dating and focusing on myself. Maybe I'll buy a bike and get back into riding or hit the gym again. I just need to move forward. I'll be keeping this account for about a week before I delete it. Thanks again to those who took the time to support or challenge me. It's been a hell of a journey. Wishing you healing and peace and a happy future. As a grandma of 8 and mother of 3 kids, I think Opie is an amazing person. The decision he had to make was not easy in any way, but I truly believe he did the right thing. If it had been my daughter and grandbaby, I would have gone out of my way to make sure Opie felt no guilt or remorse of any kind. Sending blessings and peace to him is the least of what he should receive. He handled it amazingly, and that baby will live a life with his family and hopefully will be told that he is loved and blessed because of the choices Opie made. You made a right call for the baby and for yourself. The baby is in the hands of people who can love it the way it deserves to be loved, and because of the circumstances of its conception, that wasn't you. Good luck moving forward. I agree. If the argument for abortion is that the baby would otherwise be unloved by an unwilling mother if it came into the world, then surely the same argument would morally exonerate an unwilling father who doesn't want to take care of a child that is not even his. And a constant reminder of both his dead wife and her infidelity, which are 2 of the most painful things a person can go through. Losing your proverbial other half, and the complete, utter, and total betrayal of the love and trust they shared together. Don't listen to the hate. It's easy to pass judgment on someone else and try and act holier than thou. We have no idea how we'd actually feel if placed in a situation like that. I'm sure the baby will be well taken care of. Take time for yourself and move forward. Can we point out how freaking cowardly it is to hide in DMs because you're too freaking afraid to spew your vitriol where everyone can see? Like, it's the internet. You're already anonymous. So imagine how weak and pathetic you must be to have to hide even more by only spewing your BS when no one else can call you on it. This is why naming and shaming should be allowed. Pull up the receipts, post them and the name, and let everyone see who these people really are. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not changing my wedding day date, even if it is in my late half-sister's death week? So I, 32 female, am an affair baby. My dad's wife and her gremlins weren't shy about letting me know. Years of shunning, calling me a bastard, mistreating me, and showing blatant favoritism and overall better treatment to them than me. I left home at 19 and only spoke to my dad when I needed money. Lol. I'm getting married to the man of my dreams, and we're having a beautiful winter wonderland wedding. Corny, I know. Winter is our season. We met and fell in love during it. Plus, I was born in December, which makes it even more special. The problem is that my wedding date falls during the week when my half-sister Amy died. She passed away on the 15th and our wedding is on the 13th. I didn't plan this intentionally. My fiancé was the one who picked the date. They have a tradition of making that whole week about her, with dinners, small parties, and visiting her grave. I don't participate since I never liked her, nor did we have a good relationship. When he received his invitation, my dad called me, almost in shock, and asked if I could move the date to late December or early January, since he didn't think he could attend. I told him that if that's the case, I guess he wouldn't be showing up, because I'm not changing it. He broke down and asked if I was punishing him again. He often tries to manipulate me like this. I told him I wasn't. I just didn't care enough, and I told him not to bother me anymore before hanging up. He called again and apologized, but I told him I didn't appreciate being manipulated or made to feel bad in the months leading up to one of the happiest days of my life. I told him he was uninvited. Since then, he's been basically harassing me. I'm starting to think I might be the a-hole, but I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your dad clearly is still only concerned about his original family. He isn't even hiding it. My friend, he's not your father. Father is a title earned, and he has not done anything to earn it. What an absolute failure of a man. I'm so sorry he was too weak to protect you from the people who try to make you feel small for simply existing. And those wedding perks that come with being a real father, like walking you down the aisle or having a dance, he hasn't earned either. You're beginning a new chapter in your life, and you're not obligated to carry the baggage forward to this new stage. And your dad and his family are baggage. Not the a-hole. Be selfish for your own peace. My nephew got married on the anniversary of my brother's death, his uncle. It made what was once only a sad day into a very happy celebration. Congrats on your marriage. I would love if someone got married or had a child around the time my brother died. Mid-June is always hard in my family. If we could celebrate new life at the same time, it would open so many new doors. You are not the a-hole. I got married in December. The 10th to be exact, as our anniversaries are around that time. My grandmother's birthday was the 7th, and for me it was like she was with me somehow even though she was gone. You didn't make the decision with malice intent. Enjoy your wedding and don't worry about your dad's family. Think of yourself as Cinderella finally getting her happy ending. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's fiancé I am not interested in being her son or accepting her as a mom? My mom died 6 years ago. I'm 60 now, and for the past 2 years, my dad has been dating Kate. Kate is a widow who has 2 kids with her late husband, both under the age of 5. My dad and Kate got engaged at the start of the year. Around that time, Kate's kids started calling my dad Dad. I think it's because we all moved in together then. Since that move, Kate has been trying to bond with me and build a mother-son relationship to go along with my dad's father-kid relationship with her kids. I've tried to be polite while not agreeing to most of the things she has asked me to do with her. Mother's Day was the first real fight we had. My dad and Kate wanted us to celebrate the day as a family, but I chose not to because Kate isn't my mom, and she is not the person I'd want to spend that day with. I said as much. Kate told me she could be my mom and was willing to try very hard to be a good mom to me. When I didn't go along with it, she said these were important memories for the whole family, and we needed to blend as a family unit. My dad tried to claim I was a big brother now, or would be once they were married, and that I should want to create a close, loving, and supportive family unit for Kate's kids. When I said I didn't feel obligated to, we fought. The fight didn't stop Kate, but in the past month, she's been more upset because, on top of everything, I refused to give her away at the wedding. She said she wanted her kids to do it, and they will be walking with her. But since I'm older and technically able to do it in a more official way, she was hoping I would. I told her I wasn't going to do that and would be extremely uncomfortable in that role. After that, Kate pulled me aside when my dad and her kids weren't home and asked why I was being so difficult. I told her it's because I'm not interested in being her son or accepting her as my mom. I told her she's Kate, just Kate. Her kids are just Kate's kids or my dad's almost step-kids. I told her I don't want to be her son or their brother, and I'm not going to try to be something I don't want to be. I said it's fine to be friendly, but they will never be the nuclear family to me that they want to be with each other. My dad tried talking to me after Kate told him about our conversation, but we ended up arguing. Kate and my dad both said I was being unfair by not even trying the nuclear family thing to make it work. They said being 16 doesn't mean I can't open my heart to another mom and 2 siblings. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Of course no. Your dad and stepmom shouldn't be trying to force you to be a son/brother. All you have to be is respectful to them. I really hope they can understand and respect you. He's still grieving. His dad and Kate need to understand that and give him his respect. This is it. The difference between Kate's kids and OP is that OP consciously knew his mom. He's good, I think, especially because he explained to her that he's okay with Kate marrying his dad and he's friendly with a lot of them. He just doesn't see her as his mother. If Kate and dad don't push it, a friendly relationship can become a trusting friendship. They just shouldn't expect the mother-son relationship. Did you make it clear to her that just because your mom is no longer here, she's still your mom? Always will be. No one should try to usurp that title. Can you offer to be friends? Yes, I said this to my dad and to Kate. They can't separate me from Kate's kids who could accept dad. But they're so young and don't remember their dad. If they would bother to do the smallest bit of research, they'd realize they're being total idiots. When I was getting serious with a man who had 10-year-old twins, I decided to actually read about step-parenting and what my role in their lives would be. Surprise, surprise, children over the age of 5 will likely never have a parent/child relationship with a step-parent. It can still be meaningful and close, but it is totally different to a parent and child. Your dad and his fiancé are being completely unreasonable. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I will live in my house if things don't work out? Long story short, her kids have strained our marriage, and I've been staying with someone else at her insistence after already being gone for 10 months for professional reasons. For the last couple of weeks, she's had it in her head that she and her kids will continue to live in my house without me until it's sold if we decide to divorce, while I continue to pay the mortgage. Her name is nowhere on any ownership documents. I've paid the entirety of the mortgage and the down payment. I would obviously buy her out of any other equity she's contributed, appliances and small improvements, but I haven't decided on anything beyond that. Last night, I finally told her to forget that as an option. This made her upset because she has nowhere to go, admittedly not comfortably, and cannot afford to pay the bills independently. I also told her that I wouldn't kick anyone out, but she refuses to simply cohabitate for the sake of practicality. We're still trying to work things out. So, am I the a-hole? How long have you been married? 4 years. You need to hurry up and divorce. You've been separated for almost a year already, 10 months working away. She doesn't want you living in your own home. The longer you delay kicking her out, the more money she can take from you. If she bought any appliances, she takes them when she leaves. In respect to the equity in the home, talk to a lawyer. Stop talking to her. Not the a-hole. Your mistake was moving out of your own home. I think this was legally a terrible move. I don't think he can just come back after being gone and demand she move. He already abandoned her and the kids. Not my term, but the law's term. He has some work to do if he wants that house. They're not his kids. Legally, he has no rights or responsibilities to them. He could ignore their existence, and legally he's not in any trouble unless the courts decide he has taken on a fatherly role for long enough, which depends on a variety of other factors. Go back to your house. Now. Talk to a lawyer. Yeah, I believe it's like abandonment or something if you're the one to leave, which just gave her a lot more claim to the property. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-mother-in-law what makes her think she can see my child? My ex-mother-in-law and I always bumped heads. Not because of me, but because of her. When I started dating her son, she didn't like it. I never said anything disrespectful to her because I wasn't raised that way. I tried to make her like me, but nothing worked. She was just that typical boy mom who wanted her son all to herself. She would try to get in the way when my spouse and I did couple things. I still remember when she said I was taking her son from her. I never understood why she acted like this. I'm fine with the rest of my spouse's family. Years later, I got married to her son in Honduras. I always look back on that day and wish I could relive it. My mother-in-law was invited but didn't come because she said she was disappointed in her son for choosing me. I wish that was just a bad dream. My spouse was upset that his mom didn't come, but we moved on and started planning the rest of our lives together. Sorry for rambling, but in 2023 I found out I was pregnant. This is where everything started. My spouse told his family the news and they were happy, except for my ex-mother-in-law. She didn't care or congratulated me. The only thing she said to me was that she hoped the baby wouldn't make it. The comment replays in my head every day. I knew that if I was bringing a child into this world, I didn't want them around my ex-mother-in-law. That's how it's been. During my pregnancy, she disappeared. I never heard from her, and I didn't receive anything for the baby. Not that she had to send anything. Last year was incredibly difficult for me. My husband passed away in a motorcycle accident, and I felt completely alone. Everyone was grieving, but I still wish he could have met our daughter. My daughter is turning 1 this year, and my mother-in-law has never seen her. She stayed in her lane, and I stayed in mine. Surprisingly, she decided to contact me. She's been blocked, but the only way she could reach me was through Facebook, which is public. She sent me a long message saying, I know it's been a year since we've talked, but I think it's my right to see my granddaughter, so stop keeping her from me. It was very bold of her to think she had a right to see my child after everything she said. I didn't want to go back and forth, so I simply replied, what makes you think you deserve to see my child? Am I the a-hole? Under no circumstance would I let her meet your daughter, the child she wished dead. I am sorry for your loss, and I understand it must be hard, but you need to protect yourself and your child. Sending virtual hugs. Not the a-hole. I would block her and move on. She hasn't been a part of your child's life, and I wouldn't let her in now, especially with how she has treated you and wished your child dead when you were pregnant. Based on how she's acted in the past, I wouldn't put it past her to try and poison your child against you. Not the a-hole. But why on earth do you have your settings to public on Facebook? That is crazy. Block her. You can do this even with Facebook settings to public. I am so sorry for your loss. Thank you. My Facebook is public because that's my business page. I do have a private one with family and friends, and I appreciate it. You can block people from a business page too. I know, and that's what I did. I, 27 female, screamed at my husband, 28 male, over his hobbies, and now he's changed and I don't know how to fix this. Hey everyone, I need some advice about a situation with my husband. I'm 27 female, he's 28 male, and we've been married for 4 years. He has a room where he keeps all his hobbies: sim racing, aviation setups, soccer analysis tools, Lego sets, music production equipment. Basically, it's his sanctuary. He's super analytical and loves writing down and dissecting things, from sports to politics. He's slightly on a spectrum and very introverted, so he doesn't have close friends. I'm really the only person he shares everything with. He's always inviting me into his space to be part of his interests. I love him and appreciate that he wants to include me, but sometimes I just need some time for myself. Recently, I snapped. I yelled at him, saying some hurtful things that I didn't mean. Like how his interests bore me, that he needs to get a social life. I'd even questioned why I married him. I regret every word, but my anger got the best of me and I couldn't control it in that moment. Since then, he's completely changed. He stopped spending time in his room, moved to sleeping on a couch, and barely talks to me. He even ignored our usual tradition of watching our home nation soccer team play, something he'd never skipped before. Instead, he was working on his laptop, breaking our no work at home rule. When I asked him about it, he said he didn't care about the game and mentioned that maybe he should be more like his father, who's a workaholic and who my husband idolizes. He even added, I don't blame him for divorcing at that age now. I've apologized multiple times, but he just says, it's okay, maybe you're right, and shuts down any attempts I make to talk about his interests. I'm terrified he's considering divorce. I know I messed up, but I don't know how to rebuild trust and help him feel valued and loved again. I don't want to lose him, but I'm unsure how to approach this and make amends. Any advice? Now for the top advice. You didn't just criticize his hobbies. You degraded him, saying he needs a social life and asking why you married him. Did you even try to talk to him frankly before you snapped? Did you tell him that you needed some space? Or did you just stuff it all down until one day you screamed it all out? Instead of apologizing, I suggest that you see if he's willing to go to couples counseling with you, where y'all can work on communication and trying to move past this incident. Seriously, she literally just told him that they have nothing in common, that he is a bore to her, that they can clash on fundamental levels, like the social thing, and outwardly questioned why she married him in the first place. And now she's surprised he's thinking about divorce? Girl, you are the one who put that idea in his head, and then yelled a laundry list of valid reasons for him to leave you. Honestly, I also wonder why you got married. I hope he does get a social life. Maybe he'll meet someone he actually has something in common with. I have a relative who complained to me that her husband was forever in their garage tinkering on an old car. Apparently, he should have been inside talking to her. I asked whether she'd ever thought of going into the garage with some drinks and a chair and chatting with him and reading. She said no, and then pointed out to her that unlike her first husband, at least she knew where to find him during his leisure time. Her first had several girlfriends. She just looked at me for a minute and then stopped complaining. There is a comfortable chair in their garage now, as well as a television and a small bookshelf. I'm no hero, but 20 years later, they're still happily together. Questioning why you married him is a really awful thing to sling at someone, regardless of anger or honesty. You can talk out what you regret saying, but him pulling away is understandable. Right, I was saying there's no way one can come back from saying stuff like that. That is hurtful, and quite frankly puts off a lot of people. I wouldn't even be surprised if he chooses to move out at some point. He's already isolating himself from her, which is step one. She broke him. It's hard for any man to come back from that. Being truly broken is the worst feeling in the world, and you just feel like you're going through the motions of every day. Every hope, dream, goal, and happiness is gone. It's what I imagine he feels like. Next story. Planning on proposing this weekend, but my 25 male girlfriend, 23 female, gave me an ultimatum to propose. Help? My girlfriend basically told me last night that if she didn't receive a ring by the end of the year, she would break up with me. The problem is, I already have a ring and was planning on proposing on her birthday this weekend. I met my girlfriend in college and we've been together for almost 3 years. This girl is my best friend, and I can't imagine my life without her. I've never felt this way about anyone before. We've talked about getting married and starting a family. The thing is, I've been working on my business and trying to become financially stable to support our future family. My girlfriend knows all of this, which is the crazy part. My girlfriend doesn't have a job currently, and I've been supporting both of us. This isn't a big deal for me since I'm in a position where we can afford to live like this. These past quarters, I've finally started seeing returns from my business. All the hard work I've put in over the past 4 years is starting to pay off. We're on track to have a massive year. My girlfriend has been looking at houses over the past few months, not to buy, but just to see what's out there when we're ready. Everything was set in motion. My girlfriend's birthday is this Sunday, and we're having a party at our place as far as she knows. I had the entire proposal planned out with her best friend. Her best friend was going to bring her to the aquarium where we had our first date. I already talked with the aquarium staff about the proposal. They were going to play our song on the speakers, and I planned to do it in front of the penguin exhibit, her favorite animal. I even hired a professional photographer. I've also already asked her parents for permission to propose. Now I'm in a bad spot. I feel like I'll lose either way. Last night, during dinner, my girlfriend suddenly broke down and started crying. I've never seen her like that before. She told me she doesn't understand why I won't marry her. She said she's been there for me since day one and told me that if I didn't propose by the end of the year, she would leave. At first, I thought maybe she had found out and was messing with me, but I know her really well. Her tears and emotions were genuine. I know her friends are getting engaged and married, and maybe she feels left out or jealous. But I don't want to propose because of an ultimatum. Now I'm not even sure if I want to go through with the proposal on Sunday. All my friends are saying you can't reward this type of behavior, but I'm not sure. I don't know if she just had a breakdown or what. This is the first time I've ever seen her this upset. Are you not sure about doing it this weekend because it will seem forced, or because you no longer are sure you want to marry her? Your answer changes my advice. Yeah, anyone who at 23 is unemployed and living on her boyfriend's dime and then throws an ultimatum about marriage is nuts, honestly. He is barely old enough to propose, and she's not old enough or mature enough to be engaged. 3 years would be a decent time to wait if they were 10 years older, but they are so young. She's lucky he didn't take out the ring and hand it to her and says he's going for a walk. She obviously hasn't discussed this ultimatum idea with her best friend either. Please don't propose this weekend. Give yourself at least a week to think about whether this is what you want for your life. Hold on to the ring. And honestly, if you do decide to propose later, you don't have to do all that fuss. Just give it to her one night after dinner. And if she is upset there's no fuss, tell her you put a lot of effort into it the first time and her ultimatum made you rethink what you wanted. If she's upset there's no fuss after that, it's one more sign maybe she isn't the one. He needs to insist that she works. There is no good reason that she doesn't, and is it good for either of them to have him financially supporting her? She needs to be gaining work experience, and she needs money to be going toward retirement. Otherwise, in 10 years, he will see half of everything he was going to her and he will be starting over. That's a bit complicated. Because on one hand, I can understand how you'd want to put things on pause until you can sit down and have a talk about both of your feelings about marriage and engagement timelines. Ideally, it would have been better to do this before she broke down on you, but the second best time is now. On the other hand, there isn't necessarily anything about this sudden ultimatum that necessarily changes your plans. You were planning on proposing to her anyway, well within her timeline expectations, and you could always talk to her later about how you had this proposal planned well before she gave you the ultimatum. In my opinion, have a talk with her as soon as possible about each of your feelings on marriage and wedding timelines, and confirm with her that you're on the same page. Then carry on with the Sunday proposal. Oh, and let us know how it goes. It's also not as if you could throw that entire proposal together in 48 hours with a photographer and everything. And if she thinks so, he's got the receipts. Honestly, bad breakdown, worthy conversation. But not a complete deal breaker if the rest of the relationship is okay. I don't really understand why he wouldn't just tell her it was gonna happen and she shouldn't worry about it while she was crying. Why let her girlfriend got wrung out for the sake of his surprise? Now for the update. I want to thank everyone for their responses and advice. One of the questions I'm getting is why my girlfriend doesn't work. She just graduated last year with a degree in biology. Unfortunately, she's been having a difficult time finding a job because we live in a rural area. She's always there for me when I need her help with my business. Honestly, I've already told her that she doesn't have to work if she doesn't want to. I had a conversation with her best friend last night, and she informed me that she might have said some things to throw my girlfriend off track. I didn't tell her best friend about my girlfriend's breakdown. Since the whole thing happened, my girlfriend has been a bit distant and has been giving me the silent treatment. As of right now, I'm 80% leaning toward going through with the original plan. I still want to marry her, but the ultimatum part is bothering me. Like, how could she say she would leave after everything we've been through together? Her best friend and little sister are flying in tonight for her birthday/proposal on Sunday. Two of my closest friends, who are basically my brothers, are coming also. The ones y'all referring to as idiots. And yes, they are singles. As for why I planned a proposal on her birthday, it's because when her older sister got engaged on her birthday, she told me that's what she wanted. Regarding the ring, I've had it for 2 years already. I bought it when we went to the mall during college and she showed me her favorite ring there. I actually just finished paying off the credit card for it last month. Do I think she's actually going to leave on January 1st? No. I don't think she would actually leave. Knowing her, she might leave for the day, but she'd be right back home before it gets dark. Last story. My 40 female husband, 40 male, has been going to therapy to work on his temper and his therapist reported him to CPS. He's saying he no longer go to therapy because of this. How do I keep him engaged in the therapy needed to do the work? So me, 40 female, and my husband have been together for about 10 years, married for 5 of them. We have 1 child, 3 male. My husband has always had a short fuse, been argumentative, and struggled with managing his anger. It's taken me a long time to convince him to go to therapy. About a year ago, he finally agreed to start. However, it recently became clear that he hasn't been open and honest with his therapist, and I've continually encouraged him to be transparent so he can address his issues. For reference, he's never hit or hurt me or our son. I describe him more as a yeller, someone who tries to avoid conflict by being loud. This isn't a healthy dynamic for the home, so I've been insistent on him seeking help. In rare instances, he has thrown something, never at me or our son. One of these instances was recent, and I told him he needed to be honest with his therapist to help him understand why this is his reaction and to work on healthier responses. He had a session this week and asked to increase the frequency of his sessions. I was relieved that he was being honest and recognized the need for more than the monthly sessions he had been doing. However, today's CPS left a card on my door and wants to talk to me regarding concerning behavior with Dad. Clearly, I know who made a report, and so does my husband. I've already arranged to meet with CPS. But now, the issue I'm facing is that my husband, who was already distrustful of the system and sensitive to the stigma surrounding it, has become even more distrustful. I'm also feeling frustrated because this specific incident was something I'd consider reportable. He threw my son's Play-Doh into the yard after my son played with it on the deck and refused to clean it up. I'm a PhD clinician, so I'm very familiar with the system and extremely protective of my and my son's safety and well-being. While my husband's temper is a current challenge, he has been actively taking steps to work on it. I love him very much, and I love our family. As long as he's committed to making changes, I've agreed to support him. I've made it clear, though, that I will leave if things don't improve because his temper and unpredictability aren't healthy for our home. Now, he's told me that he's going to stop going to therapy because, in his words, this is what happens when I'm honest in session. Does anyone have advice on how to keep him engaged in therapy? I'm feeling a whole host of emotions, mostly sadness that someone seeking help was reported for an anger outburst, reinforcing his distrust in the system and discouraging him from being honest in his self-work. I'm also frustrated that his therapist, who has repeatedly reminded him they're a mandated reporter, didn't feel the need to tell him they would be reporting this particular disclosure. I know it's not required, but I've always operated on that ethical principle with those I've treated. I feel like without his commitment to getting help and working on this, our marriage will fail. I'm also a PhD clinician, so you are aware that a therapist would not call CPS over some yelling. Also, if it wasn't the therapist, he threw it outside, so maybe the neighbors had enough of him flipping out and yelling at his family that they made a phone call. I mean, if he's been like this always, there are plenty of people probably worried about the kid. This is my thought too. Sounds like neighbors have heard lots of frequent yelling and the sounds of things being thrown. That would be my top bet. The kid is 3 years old. There is no reason to scream at a 3-year-old and throw his toys out in the yard. Kids this age need to be talked to in a normal voice and told what they've done wrong. Maybe he gets a timeout. This guy should not be parenting until he gets his anger under control and learns how to be a father. Yup, and to a little child, that kind of behavior tends to kick their nervous system into fight or flight. A rageful caregiver is an existential threat, and a little toddler's brain/body has no way to know that grown-up, who they rely on for basic needs and love, isn't going to physically hurt or abandon them. In fact, even for adults, dealing with someone who is raging out by yelling and throwing things can have a similar effect. It's just that with kids, the consequences tend to be much deeper as it literally shapes how their psyche and nervous system develop. But for example, in many places it is legally considered physical assault to do things like punch walls, throw objects in rage, get up in someone's face while screaming, etc. Even if you never actually hit the other person. If there is threatening behavior that would cause a reasonable fear that the person may physically attack you, that can legally be considered assault. A person's body might react to those things as imminent threats, so even if the person never hits you and only the wall, it still causes harm. Healthcare professionals are required to make referrals if there is an indication of abuse. So it might not have been the therapist who dropped the dime, if what you are saying is true about his behavior. Yes, you are correct. However, the state I'm in requires a 24-hour response to any report. The response was less than 24 hours after his appointment, and he did talk about yelling and throwing the Play-Doh. So while I am using deductive reasoning, you're correct, it could have come from anywhere. But only 3 people know of this specific incident, and my husband and I are 2 of them. And regardless if it was the therapist or not, I'm just really struggling with him dismissing therapy in response to this, rather than him seeing that this is also a product of his temper. I guess he's feeling like how can he trust someone to help him if they'll just keep turning him over to CPS. I've never really sat on both sides of this, I guess, so I'm just stuck.